My name is Shirley Hawkins. I'm 32 years old, and this is the story of how I learned the man I loved never saw me as anything more than a backup plan. For 5 years, I was engaged to Roger. He was 30, charming in public, and the kind of man who could make everyone laugh at a dinner table. I thought we were building a life together piece by piece, like a home slowly filling with memories. We met in college. He studied communications, I majored in marketing. And from those first semesters of coffee dates and late night study sessions, I believed we were solid. Looking back now, I see all the choices I made for him. How many weekends I gave up with my friends to help him with projects. How I turned down a promotion that required travel because he admitted he hated being alone in the apartment. How I drained my savings when he lost his job during the pandemic, covering rent while he figured things out. And I did it with love, because that's what partners do, right? Support each other, stand firm when the other falters. I didn't complain. I told myself it was just a rough patch, that loyalty mattered more than momentary comfort. But over time, something shifted. Roger began pulling away. Nights where he used to fall asleep with his head on my shoulder were replaced with hours where he stayed locked in his office working late. His phone, once left carelessly on the couch, became glued to his hand. He laughed at messages I never saw, smiled at secrets I was no longer part of. I tried to ask softly, "Is everything okay?" I'd say, brushing his arm. He'd smile almost too casually. "Just work stuff. Don't worry." And I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. Then came the night that shattered everything. I had borrowed his laptop, mine was charging in the other room, and I needed to check an email for work. A notification popped up in the corner before I even touched the keyboard. A direct message. The preview alone made my chest tighten. "You make me feel alive in ways she never could." I froze. My pulse quickened. Curiosity, or maybe dread, guided my fingers as I clicked. And there it was. Message after message between Roger and a woman named Sophie. Flirty, intimate exchanges, late-night confessions. He wasn't just venting, he was invested. My breath caught when I scrolled higher only to stumble upon something worse. Screenshots he had shared in a group chat with his friends. Screenshots of me, of my texts, my photos, my moments of affection turned into the punchline of his jokes. The words cut deeper than any knife. "Shirley's safe. She's my plan B. If Sophie and I don't work out, at least I'll have someone steady to fall back on." Another message. "She's reliable, but God, so boring. It's Netflix dinner repeat. No spark, no fire, just routine." My hands trembled as I read. Years of loyalty, of sacrifice, reduced to a cruel meme in a private chat. In that dimly lit living room, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat motionless, the laptop's glow reflecting off my face, the silence pressing in around me. The betrayal was too vast to process at once, it numbed me like frostbite setting in. Had our entire relationship been a lie? Had I been so blinded by love that I mistook ridicule for devotion? I remember staring at the walls, the framed photos of us, smiling at weddings, on vacations, in silly matching Christmas sweaters. They all looked fake now, props in a theater I hadn't realized I was trapped inside. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. My voice would have cracked, my hands would have given me away. Instead, I went to bed early, pretending fatigue, my heart pounding in the dark beside him as he scrolled his phone with that smug little grin. But the next morning, when the sun streamed in through the kitchen window, and Roger sat across from me, sipping his coffee, I slid his laptop onto the table. The screen was open to the messages. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't accuse, I just said quietly, firmly, "We need to talk about this." The mug stopped halfway to his lips. His eyes darted to the screen, then to me, and just like that, the mask began to crack. Roger's hand tightened around his mug as his eyes flicked across the laptop screen. His jaw shifted, a flicker of panic quickly buried beneath a mask of annoyance. "Shirley," he said, his tone sharp. "What the hell? You went through my things." I didn't flinch. A notification popped up while I was using it. I didn't go looking. "But it doesn't matter how I found it, Roger. What matters is what's there." He scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Sophie and I, we just talk. She understands me. She challenges me. That's not cheating." Not cheating. I pushed the screen toward him, the words staring back at us like an accusation neither of us could escape. Flirty texts. Confessions. Sharing my private moments in group chats. Calling me your backup plan. If that isn't betrayal, what is? For a second, he looked caught. Then his face twisted into a smirk, the same one that once charmed me, now dripping with contempt. "You're reliable, Shirley. Safe. You always will be. But don't you see you're too Predictable. Dinner, Netflix, repeat. Sophie makes me feel alive. You just keep me grounded. My chest burned, but I refused to let the tears fall. So that's what I am to you. A safety net you can trample on until you need me. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming with something ugly. Don't act so shocked. Most relationships fizzle out eventually. You've become routine. I deserve passion. And if it doesn't work with Sophie, at least I know you'll still be here. That's not an insult, it's security. The arrogance in his voice was unbearable. It was as if he truly believed I should be grateful to be his second choice. Inside, a storm raged, years of love and sacrifice, colliding with the reality of his disdain. My heart wanted to scream to demand he see my worth, but something deeper, steadier held me still. I exhaled slowly, my voice calm but trembling at the edges. I won't be your backup, Roger. Not now. Not ever. He blinked, thrown off by my composure. Wait, what are you saying? I'm saying we're done. The words surprised even me, sharp and final, slicing through the stale air of that kitchen. Roger's smirk faltered. You're ending this just like that. No yelling, no fight. I stood pushing my chair back with a quiet scrape against the floor. There's nothing left to fight for. As I turned to leave the room, he rose abruptly, following me down the hall. You're really just going to walk out, after everything, God. Surely you're so passive, so cold. This is exactly why Sophie excites me. She fights, she pushes me. You just give up. I paused at the bedroom doorway, clutching the frame as I steadied myself. My voice came out low, measured, not passive. Just done. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and began stuffing clothes into it, each folded shirt a piece of the life I was reclaiming. Roger lingered in the doorway, arms crossed, still trying to control the narrative. You know, he said, his voice oily with faux wisdom. Maybe this is good for you. Shake things up. Find someone boring like yourself, no spark, no drama. Low-key, right? That's your style. I zipped the bag shut, ignoring the jab. My silence seemed to bother him more than any shouting match ever could. As I brushed past him toward the front door, he reached out, his tone shifting to something almost pleading. We can still be friends, Shirley. You'll need closure, right? I'll be here when you realize you overreacted. I opened the door, the cool morning air spilling in. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Without looking back, I said simply, Goodbye, Roger. And I walked out, the sound of the door clicking shut behind me, sealing the end of a chapter I hadn't known was already over. The first night alone was the hardest. I stayed on my friend Marissa's couch, staring at the ceiling until dawn. Every corner of my mind replayed Roger's words, boring, predictable backup plan. They echoed like a cruel refrain, each syllable threatening to unravel me. I had thought grief would feel like sobbing into my pillow or screaming into the night. But no, it was quieter than that. Numb, like someone had pressed mute on the soundtrack of my life. The next day I signed a lease on a tiny one-bedroom across town. Beige walls, scuffed floorboards, a balcony overlooking a noisy street. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My first real space without Roger's fingerprints all over it. Nights were the heaviest. I'd sit out on that balcony with a cup of tea, the hum of traffic below me, and wonder how I missed the signs. How many late nights did I excuse as work? How many times did I ignore the way his eyes lit up at a notification he wouldn't let me see? But instead of drowning, I forced myself to take a different step. Therapy. A coworker recommended it, swearing by the clarity it gave her after her own breakup. I remember sitting in that little office for the first time, hands clenched, wondering if the therapist would think I was pathetic. Instead, she listened, really listened. When I stumbled over my words, was I not enough? Was I too safe? Too boring? She shook her head gently. Shirley, she said, his betrayal says everything about his lack of character. It says nothing about your worth. Those words cracked something open in me. A wound I hadn't realized I was keeping hidden, suddenly exposed to the light. I began piecing myself back together, not in grand cinematic ways, but through small, steady acts of living. I rejoined my running group, the one I had abandoned, because Roger thought it was a waste of weekends. I started saying yes to after-work drinks, letting laughter with colleagues replace the silence of empty rooms. I dusted off the sketchbook I hadn't opened in years, filling pages with messy doodles that felt more like therapy than art. Work became my anchor. With the extra hours I poured in, my boss noticed. 3 months later, I earned a promotion, project lead, with a raise that made me smile for the first time in weeks. I even started freelancing on the side, something I'd always wanted, but Roger once dismissed as unrealistic. But healing isn't linear. Some nights I'd still curl up on my couch, tears soaking into the throw blanket, remembering the way he used to hold me during storms. The Christmas he gave me a bracelet engraved with always. The engagement party where he whispered that he couldn't wait to marry me. Were those moments lies too, or did he mean them right up until he didn't? I wrestled with those questions alone, and slowly the questions began to matter less. What mattered was me. The therapy sessions grew lighter. The balcony nights grew shorter. My laughter came back hesitant at first, then fuller, easier. By the 5th month, I noticed something shocking-ski. I could go a whole week without thinking of him, without replaying the betrayal, without feeling that hollow ache. It was progress. One evening, I ran into a mutual friend at the grocery store. We exchanged polite smiles, chatted briefly, and I caught the hesitation in her eyes when Roger's name came up. She didn't say much, just a cryptic, "You're better off, trust me." I walked away with my cart full of groceries and an uneasy feeling. Something was unraveling in his world. I didn't know the details yet, but deep down I sensed it. The man who once called me his safety net was beginning to fall. It had been about 6 months since I walked away. By then, my little apartment no longer felt foreign. It felt like home. My plants thrived on the windowsill. My fridge held only food I liked, and my evenings were filled with a rhythm I built for myself. That's when the news of Roger finally reached me. I wasn't searching for it. I had muted him, blocked his number, and unfollowed everyone who kept orbiting around his life. But word has a way of slipping through cracks, especially when the fall is loud. A friend from our old circle, someone who had stayed neutral through the breakup, texted me out of the blue. "Shirley, you might want to know. Roger's mess just exploded." My stomach tightened, half with curiosity, half with dread. Against my better judgment, I called her. Her voice was hushed, almost gleeful. "Sophie, the girl he left you for. She went nuclear. Big fight at some agency event. Apparently she caught him flirting with someone else. And instead of just dumping him, she leaked everything. Screenshots, chats, even the ones where he mocked you." I sat on my couch in stunned silence as she continued. She tagged clients, colleagues, everyone. "It's everywhere, Shirley. He's finished." I didn't know what to feel. Relief. Anger. Satisfaction. All I felt was a shock-and-gay stillness, like watching a storm batter a house you no longer lived in. Later that night, another mutual friend confirmed it. The screenshots weren't just of Sophie and Roger's affair. They included the cruel messages where he'd called me Plan B, boring, predictable. The very words that had cut me to the bone months ago were now public dissected, mocked by shock-and-skers. Comments poured in beneath the leaked posts. What kind of man treats someone like that? He deserves everything coming to him. Imagine calling your fiancé your backup plan. Trash. The same people who once laughed along in his group chats were now distancing themselves, terrified of being tainted by association. His freelance gigs vanished. A big project he bragged about fell through when the sponsor pulled out, citing professionalism concerns. Even his closest friends ghosted him, unwilling to stand beside someone so exposed. Karma hadn't just tapped him on the shoulder. It had slammed him into the ground. I wish I could say I laughed, that I toasted the universe for finally balancing the scales, but instead I just sat by my balcony window, sipping tea, watching the city lights blur. It wasn't joy I felt, it was validation. For months I had questioned myself. Was I too boring? Too safe? Not enough? But now the world could see what I had always feared to admit: the betrayal was his flaw, not mine. And maybe, just maybe, the universe had handed me the closure I didn't know I needed. Still, I didn't reach out. I didn't comment. I didn't join the chorus of people tearing him apart. His downfall didn't need my voice. My silence spoke louder. The first message came late at night. A number I didn't recognize. The words short, almost timid. "Shirley, it's me. Can we talk? I miss you." For a moment, my heart stuttered. Old reflex. But then I deleted it without replying. A week later, another. "I know I hurt you, but Sophie was a mistake. She turned out toxic, controlling. You were always the only one who truly understood me. Please, let's meet." I stared at the screen, my lips curling into something closer to pity than anger. The man who once called me boring now begged for the stability he had thrown away. I blocked the number. But Roger didn't stop. Soon came voicemails, his voice cracking with desperation. "Shirley, pick up. I see you're doing well. Congrats on the promotion. But I need closure. We had 5 years together. Doesn't that mean anything? Please, coffee, just once." I listened only once, then deleted. His pleas stirred nothing in me. No longing, no nostalgia, only exhaustion. Then the pressure spread. His best friend Kara texted, Mia's going through hell. Be the bigger person. Meet him. You're being childish ignoring him. Childish, I blocked her number too. Next came his sister Lisa, calling from a family landline. Her voice was sharp, almost scolding Shirley. Listen. Roger messed up, yes, but family is family. Don't throw away years over one mistake. Come to dinner, we'll fix this. Fix this. As if betrayal, humiliation, and years of mockery could be wiped away with a casserole. I hung up mid-sentence. The final straw was his mother's voicemail. You're breaking his heart all over again. What kind of woman ghosts like this? Shame on you, Shirley. Her tone dripped with entitlement, the same entitlement Roger carried. The assumption that my loyalty was automatic, owed unconditional. I sat on my balcony after hearing that the night air cool against my skin. I realized something important. Then it wasn't just Roger, it was all of them. His circle, his family, the people who enabled him. They had all expected me to endure, to forgive, to stay. And for years I had, but not anymore. For the first time in a long time, I felt the weight lift from my chest. Their voices were just noise now, a distant echo. I wasn't his backup plan, I wasn't his safety net, I was done. It was almost a year to the day since I'd walked out of Roger's apartment. By then, life felt entirely mine again. Work was steady. My freelance projects kept me busy, and my evenings weren't haunted by loneliness anymore. Somewhere along the way, I had met Daniel. He wasn't flashy or dramatic. He was thoughtful, genuine, the kind of man who listened without judgment, who laughed with his whole chest, who saw me not as an accessory to his life, but as a partner in building one together. When he asked if I wanted to be his +1 to our friend Dave's birthday party, I said yes, without hesitation. The venue was a cozy, downtown loft. String lights draped across exposed brick walls, music humming softly as people mingled with glasses in hand. I hadn't seen many from that old circle in months. A part of me wondered if whispers about Roger's downfall would follow me, but with Daniel's hand warm in mine, I felt untouchable. Until I saw him. Roger! He stood near the bar, shoulders hunched, hair unkempt, eyes shadowed from sleepless nights. The man who once prided himself on being the center of attention now looked like a ghost, clinging to relevance. Our eyes met. His widened, with something like hope, then desperation. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the awkward glances around him, and stopped right in front of me. Shirley, he said, his voice hoarse. Please, just 5 minutes, we need to talk. Daniel shifted beside me, protective but calm. He squeezed my hand gently, silently, telling me he trusted me to handle it. The room quieted, conversation softening into a hum of curiosity. People knew our history. Everyone seemed to hold their breath. I turned to Roger, my expression steady. This isn't the time, Roger. Please. His face crumpled. I know I messed up. Sophie, she destroyed me. She leaked everything, twisted it all. But you, Shirley, you were real. You were always real. I'm sorry. Please give me another chance. A bitter laugh escaped me, not cruel, just disbelieving. Another chance you called me your backup plan. You mocked me to your friends. And now that your world's on fire, I'm supposed to forget all that. He flinched, his voice cracking. We were engaged. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I held his gaze, my voice firm, carrying across the quiet room. It meant everything once. But now it means nothing. Because I finally understand I was never your backup plan. I was always too good to be your plan at all. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone muttered, Damn. Roger's face flushed crimson. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The silence around him was suffocating. I turned back to Daniel, looping my arm through his, and together we walked toward the laughter of friends waiting by the balcony. I didn't look back. Behind me, I could feel Roger's presence shrinking, collapsing in on itself. Once he was the man I thought I'd marry. Now he was just a painful lesson, a reminder of what I would never again settle for. As the night went on, I laughed freely, my hand intertwined with Daniel's, the weight of the past finally gone. And for the first time in years, I felt something simple, something powerful. Peace.